Have you heard about the exciting new exhibit by the Black Artists and Designers Guild, which was commissioned by the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum in New York City? Big news, right? The Cooper Hewitt's exhibition is called Making Home, Smithsonian Design Triennial. Now, the Badge Designers exhibit is titled The Underground Library, inspired by the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad is the clandestine network established in the early 19th century through which many enslaved African Americans traveled in search of freedom. This library installation represents a 21st century sanctuary surrounded by art, objects, artifacts, and books of Black legacy. In reimagining and repurposing the Andrew Carnegie Personal Library, Badge invites you to examine the power of home libraries and the significance of literacy, remembering that African Americans were denied the right to read under slavery. I'm honored to share that Window Works in Livingston was asked by Badge to create the flat panels for the windows. We used a custom designed fabric by Badge members, and the fabric was fabricated by Stacy Garcia's team at Libatex. So please make a point to visit this inspired space the next time you are in New York City. The exhibition runs from November 2024 all the way through August 10th, 2025. So you have plenty of time to get this on your calendar. We will put links in the show notes. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know that we're doing something a little different over the next several months. We're bringing back the most downloaded, the most talked about episodes from the last 9 years of A Well-Designed Business. These are the episodes that built businesses, that sparked aha moments, that turned you into an action taker. Now, if you're wondering why we're revisiting these episodes and what's changing with the show overall, well, I walk you through the full vision in our April 25th, 2025 episode titled The Big Shift, What's Changing on a Well-Designed Business and Why. That episode is linked for you in the show notes. Now, a quick heads up. These episodes are airing as they originally did. That means the music might sound familiar or it might be vintage. That means the event dates will definitely be out of date that I talk about. And it also means that any offers that are mentioned may or may not be valid still. But the insights, still golden. So whether it's your first time hearing this episode or your fifth time hearing it, there's something in this conversation for you right now in this season of your business. So here's the show. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. I am thrilled to let you know that Shea and Syd McGee of Studio McGee are with me on the show today. Now, before we get to the show, I'd like to thank our sponsor, My Doma Studio. My Doma Studio is the best project management tool out there for your interior design business. And in the show today, you'll hear Shea say, in her words, run your firm like a big dog. And what she means is always be professional, always be on brand, and no matter how big or how small you are, to take these things seriously. And with My Doma Studio, you can customize it to your firm's brand, so you can do as Shea did and give your clients an experience that sets you apart and one that helps you build your business efficiently and memorably. For your free offer as a listener of the podcast, go to www.mydomastudioco.com. mydomastudio.com/awelldesignedbusiness. So now here's the thing. Shea was on the podcast back in episode 236. If you missed it, head back and listen to that too. On that episode, we talked with Shea about how Studio McGee was created in a spare bedroom with lots of big ideas and no room for fabric samples, and how after many late nights of brainstorming and sharing their dreams, Syd and Shea decided to turn what was a small business for a stay-at-home mom into something so much more. Wait until you hear Syd tell the story of how Shea said to him late one night, "My dream is to build a design empire." The love, the respect, and the admiration that these two have for each other is so tangible in the interview. It is such a sweet gift to watch and to listen as they reflect on their rise in the interior design industry. You'll also hear Shea explain how she always knew she wanted to do high-end design and how Syd was instrumental in making two specific business decisions very early on in order to attract this client. Another moment to listen for is Shea's aha moment about problems in business and how with Syd's help, she now has this in perspective. Studio McGee has been featured in House Beautiful, Domain Home, Design Spudge, Apartment Therapy, SMP Living, and One Kings Lane, to name just a few. And today's show is also as a video on my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search A Well-Designed Business, and you can see Syd and Shea rather than just having to only be able to listen to them. Alrighty, I'm ready to introduce you to Shea and Syd McGee. Hey, everybody. I am so happy and delighted to welcome you to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. And I have the most amazing surprise for all of you that I have Shea McGee back on the show. And this time we have Syd, her husband, with us today. Hi, Shea. Hi, Syd. How are you guys?
Hi, we're great.
Hi.
Here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about, when Shea was on the show a month or so ago, we talked about how you guys picked up and moved to Utah and started this business. And we talked about your schedule, about how you juggle all of the responsibilities of the business and your children and yourselves together as a couple and how you keep that all together. And but we really didn't get into in great detail, you know, how you built the empire, like how it happened step by step and really in a remarkable amount of time. And so I look at it this way. I look at it like, you know, Shea already explained to all of us how Syd is the operations guy. He's the guy, the Oz behind the curtain, right? And that she's able to do her terrific interior design and meet with the clients and really bring all of her talents to the table. Because Syd is behind the table, behind the curtain, bringing his talents. And so when I was getting ready for the interview, I thought about it like this. I said, okay, so here's Syd McGee. Like he's got to be pretty much a genius, number one. And number two, he's looking at his wife and he's going, uber talented, insanely adorable. I've got something on my hands here. So tell us, when you guys made the decision to move to Utah, Syd, what was going on in your mind? We heard from Shea how she was excited to start a business and she knew that she had come back to design and was what she wanted to do. What was going through your mind and what you were thinking about, what you were setting out to create? Did you know, like a chicken or the egg, did you know that you had this mix of talent and personality that you were going to strategically maneuver and build this thing? Or were you just like, hey, I'll just work with you, and then all of a sudden as it happened, what went on there?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that it's this pure genius and I knew strategically it would always work, but I think it was much more natural, kind of messy and organic. Shea had a business she was starting to work and do her own interior design business, as I had recently left a business and was trying to start up my own thing that was actually not really working. And so she was supplementing our income through her design services. And she was like, it's going really great. I'm really busy. I could use some help. And I was actually reluctant to like join up with her at first. I was like, babe, I don't know. I mean, we've always had a great working relationship, but give me another month. So another month goes by and we're kind of still in the similar situation. And she says, look, I'm so busy. Just come help me. I think we have something going on here that would at least work for us. Right. So I jump in, and that was awesome. I mean, we've always worked together. We've had a good relationship together. And we got into it, and we actually didn't know. We had a discussion with about product and about services. And Shea had expressed early on that she wanted to create her own textiles, and maybe that was the way that we could be successful. She's seen some people do very well that way. And we were talking, and we were living in Southern California, and we loved it. And I grew up there, and she knew as a Southern California boy, like most of the time, like Southern California guys, like they don't leave. You stay there.
Don't.
You're there. If you go to college, you still come back and you stay in California. Like, it's kind of the promised land. And so one day I woke up and I said, I think we should move to Utah. Our parents had recently moved there, and we started doing more projects there. And she was so surprised and said, I agree. Like, I think we should, let's go do it. If we're going to really try this business thing together, we should go to a place where we can make money that we would get from our home go as far as we can, give us the best chance possible to make this successful. So we moved, we sold the house, and we went for it. And I think there was a lot of great stuff that Shea had. I mean, you couldn't do what we've done without her talent, without her personality, right. And her resistance and her hard work is unbelievable. It's really something I haven't really seen from someone that grasps business concepts and is so creative. Right. It's a rare mix that I don't really see often in a person, and she really gets it. So, I mean, that was kind of the start to everything.
That's awesome. I loved. How do you feel hearing that, Shea? I remember I'm sure you've heard it say it before, but it's like totally like giving you total props there, right?
Yes. No, I mean, and Syd's going to do that all day long, and you'll have to force him to talk about himself, because he's always going to do that. And so maybe we're going to have to do the thing where we have to tell about what each other's roles are, because that's the easier way to do it. But I was busy, but like just hiring one person sounded very scary and overwhelming to me. And just doing like things that I didn't look at things in my business and say, like, how can I make this more efficient? I looked at it and said, like, this is how you do something. Like, this is how you make a purchase order. This is how you put together this. And Syd looked at things and he said, this is crap. Like, why does it take so long to do a purchase order? Why does it take so long? Like, why are we having to fax these companies? And I'm like, because they told us we had to. And he would look at things from an outside perspective of someone that's never worked in interior design, and someone who was working in a more tech-based industry, and looked at this backwards interior design industry, which is very dated, and said, this is ridiculous. We have got to figure out how to make this more efficient. Let's hire some people. And he just like did it, and kind of like, it just made me kind of say like, oh, okay, like, I guess we're just going to figure this out. But him coming from an outside perspective and doing that, I think like that's where his smarts has helped us tremendously, because he's coming from a very different world and very different perspective. And I think that that's been evident in Studio McGee, is unlike anything that was out there in the interior design industry. And I think that, sure, my creative talents have set the tone for the brand, but it's his like lack of patience for doing things in a dated way that has pushed us. Syd started, we had these huge Excel files where we would like put all of, I can't even tell you how disorganized it was. I could go on and on about how disorganized it was. And then he came in and said, this isn't okay. And then figured out a way to fix those problems. And I think that a big part of the growth is that we have been very unsettled always, and we are very quick to, it's hard to, at first, like I didn't want to hear what was wrong. I didn't want to hear what was wrong. And then I caught the bug for assessing problems and fixing them and being honest with ourselves. And that has gone really far for us.
That's nice. That's a great lesson to learn, because there's no point putting your head in the sand, right? And pretending that this is, happening and it's good enough and I'll just not worry about it. So when you, I love that you caught the bug for assessing problems and looking for solutions for them. That's awesome. It's pretty funny because I have to say the first conversation I had with you, Shea, it was a lot along those lines where you were just giving a whole lot of cred to Syd and this and that and the other thing. And like I said in the opening, I'm like, okay, so we have this dynamo woman, with this incredible talent. She's got personality, looks, and everything else. And I'm like, okay, so Syd, you molded this. And he starts, it's like, well, she sewed this and she sewed this. So it's first of all, it's adorable. And second of all, it sounds like to me that you both bring a lot to the table. That clearly that you both bring a lot to the table.
Totally.
And it sounds like the number one thing that you bring to the table is respect for each other, which is the best thing to bring. So that's pretty cool. So, all right. So now what happens? So you start to grow it a little. She's busy. So that's that part I'm understanding now. She's already busy. She's got something happening and she's looking for help. You come in, you help, and sounds like you automate processes and you get the ship running a little smoother. She's running and she's doing it well. But if you want to duplicate it and you want to grow it bigger, what it sounds like happened, Syd, that you looked at the big picture and said, if you're really going to, okay, so you're doing 200,000 this year. If you think you're going to do 400,000 in sales, we need to get this systemized better, right?
Totally. So coming in and looking at initially was like when we were speccing furniture, that was one big issue that I tried to tackle right off the bat was composing these spreadsheets for multiple different rooms. And you would end up with this crazy spreadsheet and what are our pricing and what's the markups and how does that work and what's the taxes and doing that all by hand. I just knew from previous experience that there was just you're just going to make a mistake. If you're doing stuff by your hand, you just make mistakes on so many things. So I was like, we need to build our own internal software for this. Wow. And so I went out and did that. I worked with a company. We built an internal project management system to put all of our stuff in that automatically marks up the furniture based on whatever our pricing tier is with that vendor. And then it adds tax if it's going to a state that we add tax for. So wow. To help automate that, because my biggest thing was that I was thinking was if we are hiring designers, they should spend most of their time designing. I think that we talk to even lately, we'll talk to designers that come in and interview and they're like, I do a little bit of project management. They do, implementation. They do some design. They do ordering and tracking and making sure that the projects are, being completed and that all of the product is arriving. So I'm like, that's a lot. I mean, you're spending a quarter of your time designing, right. Maybe, know? And so I think from my point of view, I was always approaching things like, what can I do to help Shea and her team spend more time designing,
Smart.
So that was one of them. I took over ordering and tracking until we could eventually hire somebody just to do that position. So that was part of the growth. I think
Syd was also in charge of taking new business, which it's worked for us, but it was crazy because he would just say yes to everything. So I didn't he would get the new business. He had to get all the customer service inquiries in the new business and he would be like, yes. And then as soon as Syd would walk over to the table and it would just be me and 2 or 3 designers and we would just be like, oh no, please. And it's like, oh, I talked to this really great family. They have and so he just took on everything. It was e-designs, individual project rooms, full homes, and we were so slammed, but I think it was just baptism by fire to just learn the ways, and we knew that we wanted to make clients happy and we were going to do whatever it is to do that. And so we had a lot of projects all at once that really just we learned. And it wasn't just on the back end that it did that. It also was really great for us because we had so much content we had so much content to put out, you know,
photograph, you mean, and so forth.
To photograph the progress and, you know, do site visits and talk about those. And then of course, when they were finished, we had lots of great images, but it just gave us a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's a good
one of the deliberate decisions we made too early on was take on a lot of projects, even though it was crazy. And I didn't know design. I was just like, they want to work with us. They saw we had 30,000 followers on Instagram. This is so exciting. You know? Like, yes, we'll work with you. And the other was, even though they had lower budgets, we would not make as much on our furniture intentionally to get as much pretty furniture or like the best design for whatever their budget was. So we could have that content. So we made an initial decision like, hey, look, we will make sacrifices. We won't make as much money or whatever, but we need to make sure that we have enough content because that's so important for us and in our marketing strategy if we're going to grow. Okay. And then we will change that later. We will make later, but right now we got to grow.
So in the beginning, you were operating on lower margins is what you're saying. For a conscious decision. So now there's a little rub in there because somebody listening that thinks, oh, okay, so maybe I should do that too, operate on lower margins. But if you don't make the transition to where you eventually put your margins back into a healthy spot, then you just end up really doing design for many years and not making money. So there's two questions in there that I have. The first is that you were saying, Shea, how, you know, there was a lot of content in there and that was the positive of having all of this work. Where was it was it just because the Instagram thing had already started and the social media phase, you know, craze had already started that you just, did you just instinctively know that you should be documenting the behind the scenes and the progress in order to build that relationship with the followers and now the eventual hundreds of thousands of followers? Or was it that you just did you understand it was a thing to do, or did you just instinctively say, hey, let's tell them about the back end. Let's tell them about the project. How's that work for you?
When I started and it was just me and I got on Instagram and I had like 10 followers, it was just kind of a test. It's just testing, right? So I knew that my background is PR, right. And I knew that people. So I knew how to kind of assess like the response from people, and I knew that I needed to post every single day. And so, like we had talked about in our last podcast, like I knew I had to get that post every day somehow. So. And I knew it needed to be a pretty photo. So I had to figure out how to stretch the content. And that consistency is what has paid off. Consistency and a high quality of photo has paid off. And we saw that. I mean, we knew that from the very beginning. But maybe it's because I'm like really particular about the visuals and I have been that way since the beginning. And so we knew that. We knew that very early on.
But it was something that we both understood. I mean, it was a discussion that Shea and I would have constantly back and forth. My digital background and her, you know, her marketing and public relations experience, we would constantly, it was something we were talking about all the time of like, you know, how do we engage? What kind of different growth or different tactics she's thinking about? I would give my feedback and she would consistently test and try different things, but understood like, look, our friends use this. It's something that's growing rather quickly. It hadn't reached its like huge scale yet, but I'm gathering some traction here. I should keep messing with things, you know, and testing. And so she relentlessly did that from an early point. You know?
Like I've probably taken maybe 3 to 4 days off of Instagram since I started.
Wow.
Like, that's how consistent you have to be.
And we talked about that. That is a bear. That is an absolute bear. And we talked about in the first show how you could get literally hundreds of comments on a single post. And, you know, you are there answering the bulk of those comments personally because it's you and it's your brand and your voice. And I can just say from my standpoint, I had a interview after interview yesterday, and I literally at 9:00 at night, I went, oh my goodness, I haven't looked at Instagram. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe I had 18 people that I had to that I wanted to talk back to and thank and this. And I literally, because you were on my mind, because we were going to talk today, I thought, holy moly, what is she like? Is she going to leave an hour and a half at the end of the day? Like,
Yeah. It's
thing.
time consuming. Yeah, it's a big part of what we do, but it's obviously paid off, and so it's worth the time investment.
Right. And it's enjoyable too. I mean, when it's taking time away from sleep or eating or family, it can be tough, but in the moment, the interaction is enjoyable. Would you agree? Like, the things that people say and how they compliment you on your work, I'm sure is so rewarding and so forth. Yeah. So, okay. So the other thing in there, Sid, that I wanted to ask you about your comment on that was, so yes, and I have heard many designers on the podcast have expressed the same thing. In the beginning, take any and all work, just do it all, and do it all to the best of your ability. And you are also expressing that you consciously knew that you were working at a lower margin in order to build the business. So my question is if you're talking to a colleague out there, what's your advice on the signs to look for or the ways to know when you start to go back to a healthy profit margin, inch it back up? Because you won't sustain a business, right, Shea? I mean,
Totally.
they'd tell them you won't sustain a business if you stay at low profit margins. I need you to tell all your people.
It's true. It's true. I think it's based on the person. I think it's based on what their personal goals are. I think if it's like, that's a strategy that worked for us because we knew we wanted to grow the business in a way that we were going to have, we wanted to grow it rather large, right? Have multiple employees and grow and have a content driven marketing strategy to help us get there. Okay. And I think that if it's someone that's does it part-time, and they're like, I just need to make money on the side, or it is something that, I would like to keep it rather small, maybe me and an assistant and someone else. So I think at the time it's you're picking your different point to kind of that point to switch and go more profitable. And I think, it does kind of get a little bit scary when you're like, can we charge more? Can we mark these up more? But naturally too, as you get your exposure out there and your inquiries go up, you're going to have budgets come in, and they will ask you kind of for a reference of like, what should I budget for this space? And so we would always test a little bit more. Could we do $3,000 more for this space? And then that allowed us to still fit everything in for that room in that budget, Okay. But it's always, I think it's dependent upon the person and what they're needing, so it's like, you can't sustain at that low margin. But it's like, for us, we're like, hey, we'll sustain that longer ourselves personally, because we know we want mass exposure, get bigger, get more projects, and then we'll start to flip.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. And I think if it's someone smaller, you just have to start, inching up a little bit sooner so that you can have a sustainable business.
Okay. Because your plan from the beginning was to grow a big business. That's what you're describing, right, Sid?
So Shea and I would lay in bed, and I remember Shea says I drive things, but so I've pushed her, and I think we've alternated pushing each other, because he's also said, I want to build a design empire. Okay. That's what she would tell me all the time. So I would laugh and we would laugh, but then she's like, no, seriously. I just
got goosebumps.
So, we were like, okay, let's do it. So we were like, we wanted to go and do it. And I think what we've seen now with the product and the catalog and all that stuff is things that we've talked about doing and have wanted to do that we're realizing. And Shea's like, we have so much fun doing it. Like, we're so excited to be doing it. But I think, that's Shea wants to build a design empire, and I want to help her do that, accomplish it,
That's so cool. Shea, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think to Sid's point, like, he was talking about how we're finally getting to do some of those things. I mean, like when we set out to do them, like we didn't take investment money to do this business. We invested in ourselves. And so if before we even launched Studio McGee, I said, I want to have a catalog because I just love catalogs. Well, we couldn't do it at the time. We just couldn't. And it took us 3 years to get to the point where we could afford to produce a catalog. And so even though it's short, I feel like it's still, yes, 3 years is a short amount of time in the grand scheme of things, but at the same time, it still requires a little bit of patience
Right.
to get to do some of the things that we've been able to do recently. And speaking to inching up your margins, I think I was thinking about how I see our design projects go in cycles. And so like you kind of have this batch of projects and they kind of start to wrap up around the same time. And it seems like every cycle you go through as a design business, you get a little bit better budgets and a little bit better clients. And so when you say, how do you do that? You don't just make a conscious decision like, okay, now our margins are going to this. It's like you just kind of every cycle, you get to inch them up and take a little bit higher caliber client. And but that requires a little bit of patience. But for us, that has paid off. So.
Yeah. So what it is as your reputation grows, as your technical skill grows, as everything grows, then the profits can grow along with it. And
Yes.
just so I understand, in the beginning when we started talking about this margins and so forth, what you're describing is you made a decision because you knew you wanted to build a design empire. Okay. You made a decision that if in a particular space, a client's budget was say $3,000 for a sofa, like just a stupid number, that a stupid item, whatever it is. If the perfect sofa was $2,800, as opposed to a good margin would be to sell them a $2,000. You went with the 2,800 one because you knew it was going to create a better photograph, a better end product, and therefore it was almost like marketing money for you.
Yeah, and it attracted the type of client we wanted. That's the other thing too, is that it made our projects look higher end than what our early clients were kind of technically paying for. So what maybe someone the room really was worth probably double what our clients paid for it. And that attracted the type of clients we now have. And that, I don't know that we, I would say that was a conscious decision because I wanted our projects to look higher end, because I am not a budget decorator. That's not my specialty. And there are people out there that do that, and that is great, but that's just not my niche.
Right.
And so I knew I wanted to attract that.
Okay. And so if I remember correctly from the first show, and you just said it, you didn't have investors. I mean, you guys did start with your life savings. You put your nest egg, your life savings on the line. That it's not like you started this and you had this principle and you had, $200 in the bank. You had your life savings on the line, right?
Yeah, and we lived off of savings so that we could pay our employees to right out of the gate. We could have people to pay and hire. We didn't wait to hire people, and we used that. I mean, everything from like signing our first lease on an office space to buying computers,
which was month to month, by the way.
It was a month to month lease in a building that had previously had a fire, and we had to dry our hands on an air conditioning unit because there wasn't a dryer in the bathroom. But we had an office space, so
it was like a portable swamp cooler that we rolled around from room to room. And I turn it on in the summer, and it would blow everyone's papers off their desk.
Oh my God! When you think back, right?
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing: like in that, it worked out for you, but it could have, it would never have fallen down for you guys because you're who you are. You have the perfect storm of drive and talent and respect and everything else, but. I don't know, I don't know that I would be comfortable suggesting to somebody, hey, put your life savings on the line, pay your employees out of your savings and go for the gold. Like that's very risky. No? What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean,
you're both looking at me like,
I get scared. Yeah. All I'll say is that it scares me when people tell us that they're going to do that because I mean, it's
Yeah.
risky. Yeah.
It is, right? I mean, there's more in the mix there. I'm based on my experience in being in business all these years, and based on being in business with my husband for more than 30 years. It's not just knowing the pieces, how to move. It's being prepared together as a unit for riding out this roller coaster. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Syd.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I think it was a decision that we made, and it was kind of the the burning of the ships. I mean, like there was we decided we were going forward, and no matter what, like that was just the direction we were going to do. And I think that Shea and I knew this was it. This was our time to make it work. And we had to work. So we had to work 20 hours, 18 hours a day consistently for a long time. We still end up working a lot of hours late into the night because we just made that decision, and I think personally it was something that we knew we wanted to do. And ultimately at that time, we didn't have another alternative that was there for us to do. So we knew we had to make it work. And we are grateful every day that it has worked. I think that we've done everything in our power to make it work as hard as we can. That's a variable that you can control, is how hard you work. And I think that through Shea's taste and her relentlessness on social media has contributed to that growth. And then I think that things worked for us, and we were extremely fortunate,
I also think not having the outlook that nothing's going to go wrong has served us really well. I would say that I haven't always had that outlook. I struggle when we have like a problem or something goes wrong. I am like, oh my gosh, it's the end. We're going to go down, and obviously it sounds very dramatic, but it can feel really scary when something happens. And then at a certain point, it clicked for me, because it'll be like, okay, well, like, what are we going to do about it? Like, let's just solve this problem. And then I just kind of realized at a certain point, like, in a business, you're never going to be problem free. Like, you don't reach like a certain point where we've solved all the problems. It's a consistent thing of like, there will always be a new type of problem. We're not having the issue of like how to find clients, but we might have scaling issues with how to keep up with the demand, or whatever it is. There's always going to be a problem. And if you have the outlook of like, there's always going to be problems, and I'm just going to have the mindset that I'm going to fix them, then you kind of, that's how you get out of those trenches and alive.
I agree. I say it all the time on the show. If you think you're not going to have a problem today, or you're not going to make a mistake today, stay in bed. You know what I mean? Like, just don't come, because that's going to throw you off your game. I mean, yeah. I agree. And I think you have that outlook, and it really does. And I think too, what I'm hearing in here is that it's a decision that you made together. And so maybe one day one might have been struggling more with the decision, and the other one's like, okay, we got this, and maybe vice versa. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a designer listening that feels that they have what it takes, that they have the same drive, and they have the talent, and they want to create a design empire as well. It sounds like to me, you tell me if you agree, that one of the other things that they have to look to is what and how is their support system. So if they are in a relationship and that other person isn't in the business, think about if you weren't in business together and one of you was doing this, if Shea was doing it without you and she was saying to you, I have to do 18-hour days in the beginning, I have to do this, you might be sitting there going, you're ridiculous. It doesn't take that. Like, you just don't want to turn it off, right? Like, that's a legit thing that a designer has to look in the mirror to create what you've created. Because I've talked to Amber Lewis too. It doesn't just happen by magic, right?
Right.
Yeah. You
Totally.
need the support. You have to have the same vision together, right?
Yeah, I think that what I've seen over the last little bit too, as we've worked together, our roles have not been like in business. They're very separated. And I think in home life, we just cover each other as much as needed. So I think that it's like, if I'm, if I'm home with the kids and I'm going to hang out with them so Shea can go do an install, like, that's fine. Like, we'll play and we'll have fun, and Shea goes and does that. Or, if I have meetings or I need to travel, like, and then she stays home and changes her schedule. Like, we've just committed to each other that this is our life. This is how it is. And we're going to enjoy it. Yeah. We're going to enjoy the craziness and embrace it and support each other. And fully what they do. I mean, she understands when I have important business meetings that can't be missed, I need to go to, and she supports that. And I understand how valuable and important it is for her to go to the installs and do the webisodes and be the face of the business.
But I think
so
even
I support that,
like, even if we weren't married, and I was just doing this, or you're a designer that was doing this alone, I think just having, like, some sort of support of like a cheerleader. You got to have a cheerleader somewhere, because running a business can be, it can be very tiring and grueling, and it can also be a little lonely sometimes. And so it's nice to have a support somewhere, in or out of the business.
It's not as pretty all the time as it looks on Instagram, right? So let's talk a little bit about getting into the webisodes. I mean, you have over 44,000 followers on YouTube and videos with 33,000 views. And so was that part of your original design empire plan, Shea, or did you guys develop the idea and the concept to do that together? How did you, because look, we all talk about doing video. Every other podcast, somebody tells me, and some other designer shares how they're doing video. But again, you didn't just say, okay, we'll just put a YouTube out once in a while. Like, you literally created a TV show of your business and did it. It's a professional. I mean, it looks like a professional production, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, professional is probably a relative term, because I mean, I'm sure if like a cable network saw, how we were running it, they'd be like, oh, you need like 10 more camera people or something. But I mean, we have a plan. We have a plan, and we schedule it out. And, but I think I don't know, Sid and I are like always coming up with like random ideas, and some of them stick. And early on we had said like, oh, maybe we should like document things through video, and we didn't do it. Okay. And then at a certain point we were like, okay, video is like, it's not going away. We've got to figure out a way to do this. And but when I say things are ever evolving, they really are. So we thought we would do this webisode series where we would have clients that were specifically for the webisodes, and that ended up not being the way it worked. Like, it wasn't ideal, just because like we thought we would be able to have these projects go a lot quicker to have the turnaround for videos, and they're just not happening as quickly as we needed them to. So we're like, well, maybe we'll just our next iteration of the webisode is going to be us documenting the process of the build of our home. So instead of every single episode being like a before and after reveal, it's going to be documenting the progress of our home. So we've taken a quick little, hiatus, and now we're going to kind of experiment with this. And that's what I love about social media, is that it's very fluid, and
just change it up.
But the video is great. It's so funny. Like, I'll go to market, and there will be men that I never would have anticipated, one, following us on social media. Like, they'll work at like a furniture company, but like, I don't know, I just like, that's probably a gross stereotype for me to like think that they wouldn't be following our YouTube channel. But they're like, oh yeah, I saw that episode where you did this. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, people actually watch these. So I think it's been great, because video adds this like other dynamic where people can see our personalities like in a real way. Right. And then they, when our clients are hiring us, they like are like, oh yeah, I know who that designer is, because I saw them come up on a webisode, or whatever. So it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah. And how about the marketing of that? Was it that, I don't know, I mean, when the video started and you launched the YouTube channel, did you already have multiple hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers? So basically it was easy to bring them over there?
Yeah.
Okay, so they already knew, like, and love you, and Instagram was like, oh, I get to see her now every week. Okay, I'll go
but
there.
YouTube's a different audience.
Yes, right.
Than Instagram. And so I think a lot of our followers have come over, but we've also learned that some of our Instagram followers just won't go to YouTube. And so we have to put them on our blog too. So, but video is good. They love, everyone loves the video, but it kind of is like different platforms for different. So we always have to put that YouTube on the blog as well.
Okay. On your website so that your followers see it there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more, either one of you, about some of the actionable things that you did. Like, so Shea tells you every night, like, I want a design empire, and you have this feeling and you have this goal, and beyond the design. And of course, one actionable thing was that you made a decision for a period of time to earn less net profit in order to create the kind of projects that would attract the clients that you want. Can you think of other things that you remember doing that a designer listening could say, oh, okay, I didn't think about that?
I'd say we diversified our revenue streams, and that has been served us really well. And that was, for Syd from the beginning, was like paranoid, right? So like, I don't want to be reliant on one revenue stream.
Okay,
That's
smart.
seems too risky. Like, what if something goes away? And so our business is divided into quite a few revenue streams now. So it's like we have design services, and then we have McGee & Co., which is really the bigger, McGee & Co. is actually the bigger side of our business than the design side. And so you've got products, services, and then we have sponsorships and like money that's like affiliate links and things like that, that's made through monetizing our social following. So you have these few different areas where we can, if something kind of shifts happen in the economy or just business, then we can maybe push on one revenue stream more than the others.
Okay. And so McGee & Co. started how long ago? McGee & Co. is the product lines that you sell, right? And that started 1 year ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so was that well, Syd said in the beginning, from the beginning, you did have a vision for those things, that you wanted to develop product, Shea, and you wanted to, get into that. So how did you just start at that point? Were you also already a big enough following that when you go to products and manufacturers and you say, we want to do this, they're like, well, she's got 300,000 people following her, let's put our eggs in this basket with you? Or did you have to convince more and pitch more and prove value more in order to get companies and products to go along with this with you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I remember specifically we talked about design services and product initially, right? So I mentioned that at the beginning. We went to the first market in Las Vegas, and we began to speak to these vendors and the reps, and people were like, who in the heck are you guys? Like, yeah, like we Instagram. Okay, we know. It's like, they didn't really care. And at that time we had maybe, 30, 40,000 people, and we thought we were pretty cool.
That's pretty hard to get even 30,000 people, believe me.
Yeah. So we were like asking, like, hey, we'd love to have like a shop to complement like all of our interior design projects, like that we could provide the product online. And no one wanted any part of that. They said no, like, no, that's not going to happen. So we're like, okay. So I think what happened is through Shea's growth and building up her design credibility, in the design practices, and us continuing to grow as a company, and kind of just being like, we're going to just make them hear us. Like, we will make them know who we are through our social media, through our marketing, through our growth, through our designs. And we did that. So and then we went back a year ago, and people were just like, yeah, we know who you are. Like, we follow you on Instagram. Like, we've seen your work all over the place. We hear about, people coming in our showroom. Oh, the Studio McGee. I want to get the Studio McGee look. Like, what's the product, So then they were much more open to allowing us. So we picked a handful of brands that we really liked using in our projects, that we knew was good quality and that we wanted to sell. And that's who we started with. And started to sell online, and it went really great. Prior to selling other vendors, Shea had developed her own textiles that we had drawn out. I actually drew one of the prints. I mean, this was like early days, so we were like doing everything, and had them printed and made into pillows, and you could also buy the textiles by the yard. And so we were already kind of selling that in the background initially, but very little, very little. And then when we decided to launch, it kind of took us back by how well received it was initially. And it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. I mean, 2 months into it, we took the website offline for 2 weeks and rebuilt a completely new site, and launched it again. And we were just like, with the volume of traffic and it's not looking great and we're worried about the reliability. Okay, we got to bring it down. Then we brought it down and then we relaunched it, and it's been good since then. But it was a very like crazy, interesting.
We thought we could fulfill everything from our basement. Like we thought we would just be able to like have some racks in the basement, and that we would be able to like have our accessories and things down there and have someone ship them out.
Yes.
And now we occupy like tens of thousands of square feet of warehouse.
No,
you had no idea how busy you were going to be right out the gate.
The first 2 weeks of the full online store, we would go downstairs. We would speak to the girl who was doing the fulfillment. Are you doing okay? Are we keeping up? Yeah, we're doing okay. I'm almost caught up. And that was the same answer every day for like 2 weeks. And we're like, look, like, let's just have it for real. Like, are we going to catch up? And it was like, no, we're not. I cannot keep up, So we're like, okay, we have to move. So we moved to one warehouse. Then they couldn't keep up. So then we moved to another warehouse where we are now. That's about, a little over 10,000 square feet that we have, full of McGee & Co product now and fulfill.
And so what is that distribution thing like? I mean, I would have thought that it gets made somewhere else and shipped from somewhere else. So it gets made somewhere, shipped to you, and then you ship out again?
Yeah, it's kind of honestly, it depends on the product, and it's kind of all over the place, but as much stuff that we can send out ourselves so we can get the true McGee & Co experience, give the McGee & Co packaging experience, love pretty packaging and things like that, we do.
Okay.
But yeah, it's, I think though, one thing that we couldn't have anticipated was that we did not plan to grow our following and then launch a store, but actually worked out really well because we built this following and we showed that like how you can use these products in your space, whereas it's totally fine to go the opposite way where you launch a store and then you grow the store and grow your following at the same time, but it just worked really well for us to go in the opposite way.
You launched to an audience.
Yeah.
You launched.
Yeah, we launched to an audience.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And right now it's a combination of products that are private labeled for you, but not designed by you, and products that are designed by you, Shea?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. And we would love to continue to design more and more. Not love to. We're in the process of designing more and more, but it takes time, and the time of manufacturing and design is a little while. So we're continuously going more and more in the exclusive direction.
Okay. And that must have been, I mean, you just don't open up like, the yellow pages and say, who will make my stuff? Right.
Yeah. So that's something that we're still, like it's a challenge every day to go through that process.
And is that what you were talking about, Syd, about going into the different markets and talking to different vendors and saying like, you've already got, fabrication and production set up, but we want to do a private, our own product. Do you just access their channels and their production and then just make it for you? I mean, you don't have your own factories and things, right?
Yeah, no, we don't. Not yet.
Right. Really. Exactly.
Not yet. But I mean, I think there's a lot of what Shea's established is a trust in her and her taste and her design. So she is extremely particular about how well things are crafted, the best design, shape, and the best that we can for the price point as possible. And so there are a lot of vendors that reach out to us now that they see what we're doing and what we have going, and they kind of feel like, I think you got something going there. Like, I want to be a part of it. And they've created some unique lines for us. And those have been some really fun partnerships because they've been great companies. One we did with Farmhouse Pottery. We really loved their stuff, and they did a great line with us, and that went really well. And there's a couple other vendors that were, they reach out to us, and we're excited to work with them. And it fits really well. I think it's really interesting to just kind of go into the manufacturing world of who you partner with and how that works. Cause yeah, I'm like, how does that work? Do you just go, do you just fly over there and knock on the factory door and say like, let's do this? And I think sometimes you might just have to, and the others are people that come to us. So we're in the midst of that. But we're having a blast figuring that out because it's fun to create our own stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. And so McGee & Co. is a website that we, for anybody who maybe this is news to them, okay, it is a website where you can go on and shop and order product to specify in interior design projects, or it's not just to the trade. I mean, it's a retail site, right?
Yeah, it's a retail site. And the whole premise was I knew that we had lots of people. I mean, I would have been one of those people, like I can't afford to hire me, as a high-end design firm. But some people want to still get that look in their own home, and all of our followers have followed us for so long and want that look. And so this gives them an opportunity to know how to do it. When I say that I look at every single item before it goes on the site, I really, truly mean that. Like I go and I look and I touch and I feel, and we use all of these things in our projects. And so it's like this kind of like really cool process where we have this test ground of like, oh, we got these ottomans and they were really cool and our clients loved them. I think our customers will like them too, or maybe we'll modify it a little bit for the e-commerce site so it's a little different than our other project. But we just are always shopping. And so this is a great way for people to get the look. And I like a really eclectic look. And so I find that when I would shop, like I would go to a store and all they would have is like it was like a set of things. Like this was the collection, and I don't want that. And so this allows people to like pick and choose to kind of get a more eclectic look and still know it's all going to be good items. It doesn't look like a mishmash of stuff. So
I love it. And I can hear that you're very particular about everything. Oh, I hit a nerve, right?
I've got to be.
Okay, so anybody who's only listening and not watching, you have to now watch to get her face on that. She's like, But the thing is, that's an important lesson too in business, right? It's an important lesson to understand that. Tell me about that decision on when you were building along the way. Right now, 620,000 followers on Instagram and 50,000 followers on YouTube. It's easy to see that everything has to be on brand and on point. But I'm hearing that you were that way from the beginning intentionally, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am particular. And I have my specific tastes, but I've also learned in doing this that because I am that way and that served our brand really well, we have to pick and choose where we're going to focus that energy and attention. And so I love design so much, and I can't be one of those design firms that has 100 employees because I like to be a part of every project and I like to be a part of all the selections. And so you just have to make that choice for you. If there are designers that I admire who have gone that route, and they have multi-city offices, and they don't look at the projects selections, and that's really great, and I think that's awesome, but it's not for me. And I had to kind of come to grips with that, because I think we had these big visions and these grand ideas, but I also know myself, and so we have to say, like, this is the maximum number of projects that I can still be a part of. We have designers that manage them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not managing the projects, but like I'm still involved in the aesthetics of them. And so we just had to make that decision. And then we saw that I can be a part of selecting and being as picky as I want for McGee & Co. And then that can scale. And so then that's where what we've decided to do. So
It's smart because you're right. I've interviewed interior designers that have, one has 25 designers on staff. And yes, there's lots of projects that particular designer doesn't lay eyeballs on. It doesn't mean that the projects aren't well done. It doesn't mean that it's not a good business model. Like you said, it's for somebody else. But for you, in order to create the empire that you wanted to, in order for you to scale, you chose to do it through products rather than projects because you really like the juice of being on the project and involved in it. That's nice. That's very smart. And it's very intentional, and it is personal. It's not the only way to do it, right?
Right. There's so many ways to do it. They're really and we talk about how we did it, but there's so many ways, and there's not really a right or wrong way. But I think all of the ways involve a lot of hustle.
Exactly. Right. You got to be willing to put the time in.
Yeah.
Yes. So are there things like, mostly I'm going to ask you if there's anything new coming up, but probably anything new coming up you can't share, right? Is there anything new coming up that you can share, or is it all like, well, I can't tell the whole world yet? There was something you were flying to New York for.
Yeah. I was actually in New Jersey because we're working with Food Network on a project, and I can't really say
that's what you were like. I can't really say. Yeah.
I wish I could, but it'll be out end of February. You'll be able to see more of what it is. But we've been working on that, and we've got some other tricks up our sleeve that we're working on. And I wish that I could. It's really hard for me not to say stuff. So you probably should stop asking me that question.
Okay.
I'll spill the beans, but we have.
Well, that's why I preface it with, you probably can't tell us. I was like, I know I'm going to ask this, but you're going to tell me you can't tell me. So
yeah.
Okay. All righty. Anything that you want to share from advice from a personal standpoint with, you have a young family and you have a growing business and you're in together in your business, like advice to people that are maybe in business with their husbands, or even just a very driven business person that has children and things on that regard?
I think you can do both. I think that there are some times where I'll be very honest, like it will bring me to my knees. It is so overwhelming. It is really, especially because I want to do everything really well. I want to be a really good mom, and I want to be a really good entrepreneur. And in order to do both, it's really demanding, but it can be done. I think that that's the other thing, though. It's like, yes, it's demanding, but it can be done. And but I think it takes maybe a non-traditional approach. Like working 9 to 5 isn't the approach for me to be able to balance both. And so it's doable, but it is taxing. But I also have to remember, like, this time when our kids are small, it's a short and fleeting time. And so I keep forgetting that, like, oh my gosh, in a couple of years, like, my kids are going to be in school.
Right,
so it's just like this short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
How about you, Syd? Being, it sounds like you have as much responsibility as home as you do work.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think Shea does a really good job of keeping it all together. Sometimes I'll just be losing my shit, and she'll just be like, just, enjoy this time. Like, sometimes I'm just like, man, their kids are so active right now, and the toddler is always trying to, like, eat something poisonous or pick up something sharp or, like, jump off something, and that's, like, so physically demanding. And she always reminds me of just enjoy this time. Like, they're young and wild, and they'll grow up quickly, and everything else will be okay. Like, as long as we kind of, like, stick together and keep doing the stuff together. And I think times we'll alternate to kind of support each other and talk each other off the ledge, and that really works, because I think that we look at it and we constantly remind each other that we are extremely grateful and blessed for all that we have with what we have, no matter what we've accomplished already. And so we just try to enjoy it and have a good time in our next round of what we try to achieve. Because we feel like that's the best way to do it, is to do it and have a good time doing it, and everyone else feels the energy from that. Then we want people that work to have a good time, and we want to do it in a way that we do it and have a fun time doing it. It makes a difference. It shows in the work. So I think we constantly remind each other to do that.
I love it. I think it's great. Yeah. I think you two are adorable. I can't even stand it. Like, I'm so grateful, Shea, that you originally accepted the invitation to be on the podcast. I said this the first time when I watched you speak at Design Bloggers Conference in LA last year. I was just like, oh, sweet Jesus, that little lady up there has her head together. I was like,
thank you.
yeah, I just was very impressed with you from the beginning. And that was, honestly, I wasn't one of the people that was there because you were there. I didn't know who you were until I saw you there. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, but
You better be following us now.
oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, good. All right. Okay.
But I really was really very impressed with your poise on the platform and the way you expressed your company and the growth, and then the interview together that we did just nailed it. And now, meeting Syd too, and seeing the two of you, either one can't give enough credit to the other. I think it's awesome. And I can see that it very clearly is a combination of what you both bring to the table. And I'm so happy to know you, because I want to do this again with you in another 6 months or a year and see what new happened, because
we'd love it.
That's great.
Right.
I'm so excited. I would love to always check in every couple of months and see what you guys are creating and doing. So, and especially, we have to see what's happening in February with the Food Network.
Well, and I honestly, LuAnn, like I love what you're doing. I mean, I think like if Syd and I hadn't decided to go into business together, I would be the part-time designer that was doing a good job, but like just wasn't the thing that was, taking over my life. And I think that I've listened to your podcasts like before I came on. I was a listener, and I think it's just really cool. I think that there's so many. Design is like a funny industry because you can do one project at a time, or you can do 100 projects at a time. You could be running product lines, or you could just, be somewhere in between. And I think that that's what's really cool about it too, is that there's like no one way to do it.
Right.
And there's so many opportunities. There's not like I think there's enough clients out there for everybody, and just like developing your own style is really important. And then just kind of like thinking you're bigger than you are, or like treating your business it's bigger than you are is really great, because even if you're like a small shop, like just treat your clients like you're like a big dog, and
I love it.
And they will respond to how organized you are. Big dog, not be cocky, but just be
right.
Have your stuff together.
Exactly. Run it like a big girl, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I love it. I think it's just amazing. I'm so grateful that you both shared your time with me today. I know how insanely busy you both are. And so I just want to say, of course, I'm sure everybody knows, but we have studio-mcgee.com is your website, where you've got your 7 Tips Sunday feature that comes out, 7 things on Sunday. And then you have your webisodes are there. But then we also have McGee & Co. And it's the word and, A-N-D spelled out, where anybody can purchase anything to try and get a little slice of Studio McGee in their home, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show.
Thanks,
Have
Liv.
a great holiday season, okay?
Thanks, you too.
You too.
Were you listening to this show on your daily run or driving and thinking, oh my goodness, I need to be taking notes? Well, no worries. I created a free PDF this time listing the best tips from Shea and Syd McGee on how they built their design empire. Just head over to www.luannigara.com/Shea. That's LuAnnnigara.com/SHEA. You can get your free download of the things I learned from Shea and Syd McGee. Now, some takeaways from the show in case you are still running. I'm going to recap some things for you. First, I want to say how, unlike probably most of you, I saw and listened to Shea speak about their business before I was familiar with Studio McGee. And Shea impressed me tremendously as a thoughtful, intentional business person. This impression has been validated every single time I speak to her. And now, after speaking with Syd as well, I'm not only impressed by the two of them together as a team, I'm in awe of their business acumen and their work ethic. And I'm so very glad to see them building it together, sharing a vision and making it happen. Some of the key lessons that they expressed today include these. Shea and Syd were prepared from the outset to do what it takes to be successful. You heard Syd specifically say they worked 18 and 20-hour days for a very long time. And if you heard the first episode with Shea, number 236, you know that their days are still quite long. I want you to think about it for a moment. Sit and truly think about a 20-hour day. You've probably pulled it in your day, and you've probably pulled it once or twice yourself. Maybe you've pulled it several times. But think about dozens and dozens of them stacked up day after day. This is an inordinate amount of dedication to your dreams and your goals. And that's really the secret sauce there. To create what they have created in any amount of time, but particularly in only 3 years, requires this Herculean level of persistence, work, drive, and teamwork. And, this teamwork for them happens both at work and at home, as you heard them discuss. So high five to them for their example and for their inspiration to all of us. I liked that Shea consistently sends the message to all of us that this is what she wanted, that this was her vision for the firm, that it isn't for everybody. And she says it doesn't have to be for you too. Of course, she understands they are fully capable of scaling their firm and taking on many more projects at one time if she were to hire more designers to work under their brand, but more independent of her. But Shea is clear. She doesn't want that. She loves being part of the design, so she intentionally keeps the projects to a number where she can be physically involved in them. And again, smart lady. She figured out that the way for them to scale their business is the way that's right for her. She described it with McGee & Co. She can be hands-on, she can be picky, like she said, she can be creative, and they can scale that, and she never has to give up being involved in every part of the creative aspect of McGee & Co. So what it is the message there is that it's so valuable to know what your why is. Why are you doing what you're doing, and what do you want from it? Shea said, a desire to have more projects, to hire more designers under her to execute them is not a bad business model. It's not a wrong business model. It's just not what she wants for her. So be clear on what you want. Clarity is the very first step in achieving your dreams and creating your success. I can tell you this, when she and Syd put in 20-hour days, it's not just for the sake of work. No, they are focused, they are intentional, and their work supports and attracts their why and their goals. I just love it. So if you need help getting clarity on your why and your goals for your firm and some help on a plan on how to achieve that, I'm here to help you. I'm doing one-on-one business coaching, and I'm forming masterminds that are starting the beginning of January 2018. There are several designers already signed up. Space is limited to 8 designers per mastermind group. If you'd like to work with myself and 7 of your peers and get real-time help in organizing your firm, your marketing, your goals, and your why, email me at info@LuAnnNigara.com. Masterminds are right for you if you are feeling a bit all over the place, maybe a bit unsure of how to get to the next level, and also if you're feeling a bit isolated in your efforts to build your business. I promise you, you will come away with clarity. You will come away with to-do lists. You will come away with business skills, and you will also come away with a group of friends who just might end up being your friends for life. So I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Cravat Inc. Keep in mind, if you use a Cravat product, any product in any one of your projects, you could use rugs, fabric, lighting, accessories, anything. When you post it on Instagram, use the hashtag InstaCravat and tag both me, LuAnn Nigara, I'm LuAnn Nigara on Instagram, and Cravat Inc. Cravat randomly reposts pictures of people who use the hashtag of InstaCravat. The last time I checked, they had more than 34,000 followers. So, kind of a little fun thing to do. Alrighty, so please follow me on Instagram. I am at LuAnn Nigara. You can also follow my business, my other business. The podcast is The Side Hustle, Window Works. That's on Instagram as well. On Facebook, I am at LuAnn Nigara, a well-designed business. Okay. So, and that's it. All righty. So connect with me. I'd love to hear your reactions to the show. Of course, Syd and Shea have said that they will come back again. I'm so excited. And we'll see what that little surprise is that they're cooking up that they can't let us know until February. So, subscribe to the show in iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud, wherever you do that. And this way, when they're back, you will be the first to know because it'll pop right up on your phone. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.